Shalawam, Israel. We give all praise to Yahweh Shemi Awashai. We give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and Shalawam to the elect, pushing this word throughout the four corners of the globe. This is Shema Amar from the DC camp. Just want to bring out this this video of Dr. Henry Clarke when he talks about the slave trade. I see in Israel talking about this, that the Africans was not involved in the slave trade. But who are the Africans? Africa is a generic term, but we know there were peoples, one against another in the continent, in the land, pushing against each other. When Israel fell in 70 AD by the Romans, we got pushed into Africa, into the land, and throughout the four corners of the globe, not just Africa. But where we went, we always got pushed. Talking about Israel. Israel got pushed out of the land of Israel into Africa. And what Henry Clarke is going to talk about is how the Arabs were pushing the Africans. Therefore, the Africans was pushing the Israelites that was living in the continent. And this is what's been going on throughout history. People always push, the Greeks pushed the Japhetic people out of Europe, out of Greece, and became theirs. And they pushed and pushed, just like always in history, peoples pushing other peoples out of their own land and conquering through military expeditions. However, it's always going to be this way. It's always going to be a push. It's always going to be a push for expansion when you're growing and you're strong. So this is just another example, and I just after the video and during the video, hopefully, Lord willing, bring out some precepts. Definitely bring out some precepts on what's going on. So I'm gonna continue the video. I'm gonna start the video. Salat.
Islam. In East Africa, the Arabs have already disgraced Islam. They had started a slave trade 600 years before the European. And this slave trade, after they lost Spain, preying on nations in Africa, had drained Africa of so much time and energy and resources and organization, the Africans now could not mount an offense against Europe. Now we see the enemies the Arabs that we had installed in Spain and the Mediterranean, because the military arm was African, turning on us. Now this is bigger than my skimpy explanation, because every ally we ever had has turned on us when it was his or her convenient to do so, left or right, and there is no exception.
Yeah, that's what I spoke about, that ally, there was no real allies. We really didn't have allies. We had people who we traded with for different resources, but we never had no ally. We are a solitary nation of people who relied on each other. Our brother is our keeper, not the other nations. So if we ever relied on another nation, that was part of our downfall, because you can never trust our enemies. That's what the scriptures say. Never trust our enemy. So, he talking about Henry Clarke doesn't understand who his enemy is and who he is. Therefore, he always speak about us and them and lumping everyone as African. Okay, that's his premise. But we're going to continue on.
Now the Arabs have turned on the Africans, moved down from North Africa and destroyed the great nation states in inner Africa. Now they would increase the slave trade along the coast of West Africa, the Portuguese and the Spaniards. Africa is in a bind now. East Africa is controlled by Arab slave traders. North Africa is controlled by Africans and Arabs returning from the conquest of Spain now that they've lost Spain. West Africa is arguing among themselves because they can't settle their family dispute. They will make a mistake by inviting the Portuguese to arbitrate their family dispute. Now, I've said this.
That's what I just said. You never trust our enemy to deal with our own people. We deal according to our law, statutes, and commandments, as Moses had brought down from the mountain. This is how we deal with each other, through our law, statutes, and commandments, because these are righteous ways to govern ourselves. We don't need no outside influence. We don't need no outside ideas or how we should go or help or anything that we may need. We deal with the law, statutes, and commandments that the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai had given us. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father and Yahweh Shai, who is his only begotten Son. You see, this is how we govern ourselves. We don't invite enemies into our camps. Okay?
Before, if you didn't learn anything from Godfather 1 and 2, you never, absolutely never, invite an outsider to settle a family dispute. Never. Sober up old drunken Uncle Willie. Let him settle it. But it must be somebody from within the family. Now the African is in a bind by the European. Now let us explain something that a whole lot of people have got misconceptions about. Whether the Africans had slavery before the Europeans. In the European sense, no. Servitude is not slavery. They had worse servitude here in the United States, whites against whites. Many times the Africans in wars or difficulties would capture other African groups. These groups would have to work their way out of indenture, either tending cattle or doing something. Some groups built up a surplus of labor. The Africans had no big ships to take from Africans down the coast. So he knew a king further down who needed some labor. Now that the Portuguese are there, he hired some of the Portuguese to take these Africans from one part of Africa and another. Now the European is interpreting this as being the African was in the slave trade. The African was not in the slave trade, and you let people beat you over the head with nonsense because you have not studied African culture to understand that the nature of African servitude, one to the other, had no relationship to the slave trade, that the slave trade was the greatest holocaust, the greatest drainage on a people in the history of the world. Africans had no ships that he could connect 3 continents. And even if the African was in the slave trade, he could not have brought it off. He didn't have a ship that would hold 100 people along the coast. Mostly big fishing boats and river boats.
Well, if that's the case, if the Africans didn't have the means to move these people that he had conquered, talking about Israelites, if he didn't have the means, therefore he invited strangers into his land to help him, to help his cause. So that's what you call trade or barter. is the same thing. So don't say that the Africans wasn't in a trade. That's not true. The Africans was in a certain trade to move peoples out of his land that he conquered or he pushed out, right, for his own means. So that's not true. The Africans were in a slave trade. They were in a work camp, a movement of people from one that he had conquered to another place. Now, what those Portuguese or the Europeans did, they had, why bring slaves to another African king when they needed to build? And that's how they built up the Caribbean, South America, and North America. This is what they did. They basically kept the money for themselves. They didn't know once a slave left the port. That's why it's called a port of no return. Once the slave or the work people or the people of work, right? Once they left the port, the Africans didn't know where they were going. Only the ones that the boats were the ones who was guiding the boats and guiding the boats knew where they were going. That's why they sailed to the Caribbean, because they found this other place in 1492 with Christopher Columbus. They knew this new world, and it was all in prophecy. You see, this was all in prophecy. So they knew this.
So he could never have brought off anything as massive as the Western slave trade. Couldn't have done it if he wanted to. Didn't have the facility anyway. I am not saying Africans were right in imprisoning in holding their prisoners of war and making their prisoners of war work for them. Well, that's better than killing them, but I'm saying that they made a symbolic mistake and a tactical mistake when they hired the Portuguese to take captives from one part of Africa to the other, and gave the Portuguese the illusion that they were in the same trade and had the same intentions for enslavement as the Portuguese.
You're damn right it was a mistake. The mistake is that they were the children of Israel that you were touching. Scripture said you touched the apple of his eye. This is the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai's people. We understand that this was the punishment for Israel for disobeying the Lord's statutes and commandments of the Heavenly Father. But however, you touched the people of the Lord. So yeah, you damn right it was a mistake. It was a moral mistake. It was a physical mistake, because all this is coming back on you. All those that touched them is going to get touched. Those who Revelations says that he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Okay?
That was a mistake. It was a mistake because we did not know the European culture, and we did not know the European mentality. Didn't know it then, don't know it now. Otherwise, you would behave differently. The Africans came from a society that was collective. The European came from a society that was individual. Two kinds of temperaments. Two different people. Now, in the Western world, you have become selfish, closed-door individuals. You get in your lonely room to think of something to tell your analyst, but if you had some friends, you wouldn't need any analysts. Because African society was so open. If you couldn't talk to anybody else, you can talk to the village gospelist, who was always available. That was a good drain off. But we became a different people in this All right. If the concept of slavery was starting in the world, it was a going concern among the Arabs 600 years before the Europeans, and if there were so many people in the world, why the choice of the African as against those other people, collectively more numerous than the African? The question is both ancient and current. Why is Africa more exploited right now than any other continent? Why do people willing to fight Africans and not willing to fight others? Why does Israel get more aid than all the African nations in the world put together? One nation in the total.
See, he thinks that the Europeans who say they are Jews, he believes that they are the Israelites. They're not the Israelites. They're just more Europeans, more conquestors, pushing people out of their land. That's who they are.
Population of the Jews. The total world population is less than 1/2 of the black population in the United States. Why do they get so much attention? You get so little attention. They got that political thing together. You haven't got yours together. They got that religious thing together and that culture thing together. Religion and culture are servants of a people, and they convert it to service.
They convert it, which is correct, because they are not the Jews. Though the Revelation 2:9 said they are not the Jews. They are the synagogue of Satan. They stole a nationality called Jew, but it's not Jew. It's supposed to be Israelites. They're not the Israelites of antiquity. They're Esau. They're the Edomites who stole cultures by pushing other people out. They've done this all the time. We just talked about that at the beginning, that people, when they conquest, push other people out, steal what they had and call it themselves. These Europeans who call themselves Jews are Edomites. They're from the seed of Esau, Jacob's brother. And they take in resources because people believe that they're the Jews. They've stolen a nationality, a whole nationality they took on themselves because of the ignorant Arabs who took over that land, the Ottoman Turks, which was Esau, a mix. That's why they call them Arabs. They're a mix of Esau and Ishmael, right? They had Northern Africa. Even till today, they call them Egyptians, but they're not Egyptians. They're remnants of Esau and tribes of Africa as well as Ishmael, and they call themselves Egyptians or Moroccans, right? Or Libyans. These are mixtures of African, white, and Ishmaelite people. They're not the people of antiquity. They stolen nationalities and call themselves by these nationalities. Okay?
With you, religion is religion. You don't make enough demands from anything, especially the people who take up your time and your resources. We are the true believers. We out Muhammad, out Pope to Pope.
That's because you're Israelites. That's why. And they're fakes.
Believe in things in their purest form. Can't go to the right or the left. They said go to the center, we go to the center.
And the center is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. That's the center. That's where you need to stay. You need to stay on him. Let's get some scriptures because I'm tired of listening to this guy blaspheme and don't understand. I'm gonna get these scriptures right here. We talked about the slave trade. This is Joel. This is Joel 3. I'm gonna start at 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I should bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down unto the valley of Jehoshaphat. You're talking about payback right here. We just talked about the Arabs, the Ishmalites, and the Afrikans, who was monumental in the slave trade, or this African, Northern African, Israel, European lands that we held down, and the Lord said He's going to bring them all down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, talking about the Middle East, and that's where they are now. It said, I will plead with them being the Israelites, there for my people. I will plead with them, talking about the other nations, there for my people Israel, and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. You see, we just talked about that. This is the parting of the land through conquest, through military expeditions. And like Henry Clarke said, you took Africans, which was really Israelites, and moved them throughout the world. Okay, that's what the slave trade was about. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Drink what? Drink the spoils of these wars. This is what they drinking. When you drinking and you're sitting back, you're having a good time, you merry. And this is what they have done. This the condition they're in now, because they did part the land. They stole the people, right? Made their conquest, took over their lands and their resources. Now they could sit back and drink. Drink what? Drink these riches. It says, yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Talking about those Ishmalites, or those Ottoman Turks, the mixed up people. Will you render me a recompense? Will you pay me back? The Lord is saying, and if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. This is what the Lord is talking about. The Lord is talking about a swift payback for what you have done to the Lord's people. It says here, it says, because you have taken my silver and my gold, and carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and Jerusalem, verse 6, have you sold unto the Grecians. The Grecians, when you look up this word, these Grecians are these Europeans. Talking about the Europeans, that you might remove them far from their border. And that's what you did. You carried them off. You kept the spoils. You sold them to other people, right? On your slave ships, on your boats. Okay? This is what you have done. Right? It says, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither you have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. See, those white so-called Jews who call themselves Israeli, they were never sold to the other nations. Hitler didn't sell the Jews from Germany to another people, to the Grecians. So who is this talking about? It's talking about what Henry Clarke was talking about, conquest of the continent of Africa, which were Israelites. Okay? It says, and I will sell your sons and daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. So we getting payback. We getting all you sons and daughters of the other nations payback. We getting them as slaves. And they shall sell them to the Sabians and to the people far off from for the Lord has spoken it. Right? Proclaim this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. See, this is what's going to happen. And this is the stirring up in the Middle East. What you have done to the children of Israel. Okay? You Grecians, you Ishmalites, and you Africans. You getting your just due, your payback. Your sons and daughters are now going to be harlots and sold for wine, so that we may drink. Okay? This is how it goes down. This is future prophecy. Okay? It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. And that's what's happening. You got North Korea stirring up, ready to push Esau. You got Iran and Russia pushing. See, all these people trying to take your resources now, Esau. So this push is always going to be a push. But this push by Yahweh Shem Yahushua is the ultimate push, the ultimate war that's going to end all wars. It's going to upset all these strongholds that these men with these bright ideas have for their people. See, the world belongs to Israel. Okay? The world belongs to Israel. And Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to make that happen soon come. And with that, I would like to say, call halal Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and shalom to the elect pushing this word. Hope this was edifying. Until next time, shalom.